Welcome into the sports arena here on the end of an insane wild card weekend. Of course, weather in the Northeast. We had a doubleheader every day, although we were only supposed to have a single header today on Monday night. But I am Michael Caratanino at Diablo00 on X. And yes, I am wearing my losing team's colors, as is our next guy. This is our penance. Everybody else is either at a game or their team won or didn't play. But I bring in John Shear, Mr. Sideline Sports, with me as both our teams are grand poobah losers, as I like to call it, both doing it in different fashions, John. But yeah, happy end to a festive wildcard weekend. Let me ask you this. Now, I know it'd be a distance for you to go to, but would you have taken the $20 an hour to help clear the snow in the stands in Buffalo like those folks in that neighborhood did? That's dedication, John. Hate
If
the
it
team
was
or not. Love or
if
hate
it
the
was
team,
my
that's
team,
dedication.
if it
What's
was my favorite team, sure, but nobody else.
Right, but I'm saying love or hate the team, man. That's dedication. You gotta
Oh
love
yeah.
watching. You gotta love watching the nut jobs, and I say nut jobs as a compliment, John. So for people that are watching in the Northeast, go out there without shirts on, long sleeves, boots, and just sliding down like it's nothing, man.
That's why they're Hillbilly Bill fans.
Oh, here he goes. Here he goes. And they're still playing, and our teams are at home. But yeah, okay. So let's get into it. I mean, I know we were all. I mean, and again, we're talking C.J. Stroud, but we talked about Houston's turnaround. I mean, we did talk about that. Obviously, what C.J. Stroud has meant, um, what what he meant to the team, but just how D'Amico Ryan just infusing a culture of okay, so we have crappy ownership. Everybody throughout, everybody in the league might know it, even though they don't get in the way. They don't do enough either, as we've seen. But D'Amico Ryans did a hell of a job. But John, I mean, look, they played a few weeks ago. Yes, without C.J. Stroud, but man, that was one hell of a turnaround. And I mean, I'm not saying maybe you weren't shocked at the win, but were you shocked at the domination of such a young team of the Browns?
I mean, remember earlier in the year, I tried telling Ray, and Ray didn't listen to me. I tried telling him about the Browns' defense. As good as it is, on the road, they have struggled, and they struggled on the road. At home, they've been lights out, the Browns defense. But on the road, remember against the Colts, they gave up nearly 40 points to Gardner Minshew. So the Browns defense is susceptible to giving up a lot of points on the road. And they did. I was surprised. The thing that surprised me was that the Browns offense stopped scoring. The Texans couldn't stop the Browns from scoring a couple weeks ago, and then this time it was a back and forth, and then all of a sudden the Browns just forgot how to score and never scored again. So that was what
Well,
surprised me.
well,
I
John,
thought
we
I thought Flacco would do more.
right, and again, yes, I know a lot of Ravens fans and other people saying, "Oh, there's Flacco with the picks." I mean, look, the first pick, I think he couldn't get enough on it. Was trying to chuck it out of bounds. No excuse. It was short. It was a pick. The pick six was a terrible play. You can blame Flacco on that all day. But and you've always heard me say throughout the time you've been on the show, and Eric's heard me say it forever. And Eric is not here, by the way, because he is in Tampa trying to support his Philadelphia Eagles. So we gave him a hall pass on that because he can come back next week and report on the misery, possibly because it is 16-9 here. Second half gets started, but you've always heard me say, John, I digress. One player, oh yeah, that guy didn't play, and yes, they do make a difference. But when somebody gets blown out, it's like they weren't going to make a 30-40 point difference. Will Anderson made a huge difference, and oh god, who was the other linebacker that they were missing too when they played 2 weeks ago? Okay, my bad. I'm not a Texans fan. Denzel, don't hate me. If you want, message me. But Will Anderson Jr. and they had one of their other defensive ends out. That made a huge difference, as we saw. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's yes, you have the personnel that you need, but Houston didn't do that much crazy different on offense. Now, Amari Cooper, yes, was a little banged up, but I'm with you. I mean, did you? I mean, I picked out a few things, but what did you pick out that Houston just did differently outside of having, basically their full array of linebackers back on the field?
Again, like stopping the Browns. They got the Browns to really go away from running the football. Something the Browns really do well. They really abandoned the run game and just relied solely on Joe Flacco. Again, I didn't expect the Browns turn away from what got them there, and that was Joe Flacco. These past 5 games before this game, I didn't expect them to stop scoring. I expected this to be a shootout, a high-scoring shootout, and they both teams back and forth, and it was for a while. And then again, the pick sixes happened, and then the game, once the pick sixes happened, the game was over from there.
Right. Yeah. Look, hats off to CJ Stroud. I mean, again, I don't think that, I mean, yes. And you always hear me say, if you're going to talk sports, you got to have something to talk about. CJ Stroud did it on the field. I mean, to me, definitely what he meant to that team, obviously showing a difference for the games he wasn't there to when he was, even though when he struggled a little bit against, I mean, you can say, obviously, Jonathan Gannon, defensively, they struggled a little bit against the Cardinals. They struggled, obviously, the first time against the Browns. Well, I mean, Stroud didn't play, but it wasn't out of the realm. And not just because of a playoff game, but I saw what he meant to the team, how they turned it around. And even after bad losses, John, because I mean, we talked about that with Denzel last week. Like, how the hell do you lose to Carolina? Like, how the hell do you lose to Carolina? Like, again, battle of the rookie quarterbacks.
Every team has one of those.
Right, exactly. So he definitely had moments, but it wasn't out of the realm to me to put him highly in the conversation for MVP. Now, do I think he beats out Lamar Jackson? Probably not. I still think, like we talked about that week, and that's a conversation for after it's won, but I still think McCaffrey would be my vote for MVP if I had an MVP vote. But just to kind of wrap, now the Texans going forward, obviously they do have the Ravens next week, coming to obviously your neck of the woods and stuff. But with what CJ Stroud did, I mean, even in that playoff game, and yes, if you could run the ball and have a tight end, like we've always talked about, you can have if you can run the ball and have a tight end that can bail you out, you're going to have a great chance to win. But I mean, he's pushing the ball down the field. What's it going to take? I'm not asking you to predict, but in your eyes, what's it going to take from CJ Stroud and that team to go to Baltimore and win?
Now, take this how you will. I was thinking about this today, and I posted, on social media tonight about it. The Baltimore Orioles had a bye week in the 2023 MLB playoffs, right? They had a bye week, and then they were at home and they got knocked out by a Texas team after their bye week in the MLB playoffs.
They weren't off for a full week.
Yes, they were. Remember, they were off for a full week for the bye week for the playoffs. That's
because the wild card's 3 game. Yeah, 3 game series.
The Baltimore Orioles. Now, the Baltimore Ravens have a Texas team after having a bye. They have a Texas team coming into town.
I saw you post this. You're reaching. I was waiting for tonight to tell you you're reaching.
It sounds silly, but sports is weird how it does this, where you may think I'm reaching, but Mike, tell me how it's like a team's here. Like right now, Michigan just won the national championship. Lions just won their first playoff game in 32 years. Like, sometimes an entire city has all these good things happen or all these bad things happen. Sports are weird like that. Sports come full circle like that. And that's what makes me think, with how weird sports is, the Texans might just do that because sports always comes full circle. So, and the Texans are playing really good football. And bye weeks are tricky because they can either be really good, hey man, you're rested, or hey, the Ravens didn't play week 18. Hey, the Ravens didn't play the wild card round. The Ravens haven't played a meaningful game since they beat us in week 17. So that's 3 weeks between meaningful games, Mike, for the Baltimore Ravens. It's really hard, to take a switch and just flip it in the playoffs after being off that.
Right. But they also do have veteran experience. And here's the good news to your thing. Let me, because I didn't realize this. I didn't know that if even in the playoffs, because when I read early on about this person I'm about to mention, which is huge, because everything you've talked about the Ravens, yes. I mean, they haven't had that meaningful game since they played you. They had the number 1 seed locked up.
That's 3 weeks in between those real games.
But I mean, they had the number 1 seed locked up. They had this off, but they get a guy back, that Lamar Jackson. And again, as of now, I just know that he was activated off it. But I mean, that tandem was sick when he allegedly didn't have receivers, but his completion percentage was so high to Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is off he He was designated to practice.
Designated, but
Right.
that
But I'm just
doesn't
saying
mean
yes, but he can play in the game. I'm just saying it was this week. So everybody's practicing this week. They had practice. So they have a chance. And even if it's in a limited form, and I'm not even saying as a decoy, but put that into I put that into it. That is going to be huge for the Ravens, because what's the one thing they can do this time of year? And they talked about it yesterday. We'll get to the Cowboys in a minute. They can run the damn ball. But Mark Andrews, they get him back. I love that. What's your, I mean, obviously for Lamar Jackson, but I mean, you've been around it. What does Mark Andrews in general just mean to being in that locker room? Because I mean, he's a beloved guy in there. I know that. And what does it mean for the Ravens?
He's going to be in that locker room regardless. So,
well, right. But I mean, the fact that he can be on the field. Okay, the fact that he can be on the field.
And he's designated to return. So they have a 21-day window for him to return. So that just because you're designated to return doesn't mean that you're going to return.
All the reports were saying that they feel good about him getting to play in this game.
And he could be on a snap count. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's been so long. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. And do you mess up the rhythm that they've had with the guys they've had? Isaiah Likely's played good ball. Or do you put in a guy that hasn't played in a long time? Those are hard decisions. I know it's Mark Andrews, but sometimes we've seen in sports where you add a guy back in the playoffs and it ends up hurting the team more than helping them. We've seen that in sports before. So I don't know what the right answer is for what the Ravens should do. Obviously, you want Mark Andrews, but sometimes too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. So you just have to play it smart, I think.
I mean, look, I'm with you on that. I will add this to it, though. Like, I mean, I do think with them saying that feel comfortable can play, obviously they're not going to put him out there if he can't do anything. It's not like, well, I mean, God knows the Broncos did it years ago when was it Terrell Davis had that migraine. I mean, the NFL films got such great sound of that. I mean, he was with a migraine. He's going out there barely able to keep his eyes open, but he's a decoy. Driving forward.
Was that the game he couldn't see? He admitted
not the whole game, but yeah,
he couldn't see his
towards the end of the first half. He couldn't see like more than like a foot in front of him. So
he scored a touchdown or something like that.
He did score. Well, he scored a touchdown when it first half, but later in the game, like that, he was kind of in and out. And I think that obviously the Falcons were onto it, but then they brought him in, and when Elway scored a touchdown, but they used him as a decoy twice. And I'm like, dude, I can't imagine getting just pounded by the defensive line, even though, yes, he wasn't, we all know he wasn't a small running back, but getting just crushed by the defensive line, having a migraine, barely having your eye. I go, the only thing, people joked about it. I go, the only thing I can joke about is, and I want him to be like, okay, is that since he really couldn't see, he's like, okay, he was relaxed and it didn't hurt as bad, but that was crazy. But I think with Mark Andrews, I mean, to bring it back to him, he's one of those players that, yes, for Lamar Jackson, he has been that security blanket, not just underneath, but getting downfield. And even if it is a snap count, John Harbaugh, I mean, isn't going to risk, just having him out there for the sake of having him out there. He gets hurt again. So, yeah, I mean, and he might not play. But the fact that, and you always hear coaches say this, John, the fact that you make the Texans defense prepare for and go back and look at everything, that he did with him. And you can say, well, look what he did with the other tight ends. The other tight ends aren't Mark Andrews, as you and I know. You can say, oh, look what he did with this receiver. Well, it's not the same receiver as somebody else for another team. So look, if he does get to play, I mean, huge boost. But the thing that it comes down to, and I mean, for me, is that Ravens defense. Because like I've said all year, and I said after week 8, when Eric said our way too, going along the theme of our way too early stuff, John, I said I thought the Ravens, no disrespect because I can't stand the Niners and or the Eagles, but I said top to bottom because of what they can do on defense with stopping the run, and you can go zero coverage if you have to, and know that your secondary is going to lock dudes up. They've done it all year, and I mean, yes, like we talked about before, a few breakdowns here and there, you're gonna have them. I mean, it's a long season, but that defense and what, of course, Roquan Smith, thank you, Chicago. I mean, at least Chicago got, hey, John, at least Chicago got rewarded by Carolina sucking, so they get the number 1 pick now. But they'll probably screw that up too. But that's a conversation before the draft. That being said, though, like the way this Ravens defense plays, because to me, and you know it, and I've said it to our Sports Arena brethren all year long, the Ravens, the Jets, and the Bills, to me, were on one level with the Cowboys. Even as much as I picked on you, but with the Cowboys, the Dolphins, and the and the Chiefs as the season went on, kind of being in that like second tier.
Yeah.
Because like those defense and Cleveland was in that first tier too. Look, I get on the road the second half of the season and everybody's pointed that out stat wise, but what Cleveland's defense still was able to do, like those were the four in the top: the Jets, the Browns, the Ravens, and
Dolphins.
And
Dolphins were really good. Carolina was really good.
I put the Cowboys and Dolphins in that second tier because of when certain guys went down, their defenses were still good but vulnerable. But the Cowboys and Dolphins were right in that second tier to me. Like I said, as much as I teased you. But I look at what the Ravens can do. I mean, you have a guy like Roquan Smith. And the reason why I brought him up last week, John, is because, I mean, you've been there, and I know a lot of the articles that get written, and I follow quite a bit of the Raven, not quite a bit, but a good amount of the Raven stuff online. What he's meant for Patrick Queen, because this dude was a stud at LSU when he came out. And yeah, the first year in the NFL, linebackers, I mean, even the Hall of Fame ones, we know they kind of get abused a teeny bit. You can see the talent, they make plays, but it's like they have to make a great play because, well, they didn't read it right. They didn't follow their, maybe their assignment. Patrick Queen, his growth. And again, that's why I'm glad you're here. You can speak to him more because I know in that area it's probably been talked about a ton. Even from the time Roquan Smith got there in the trade last year to even the beginning of the season this year. Let's go midseason. What it's meant to Patrick Queen to me has been huge because it anchors, as usual, a Ravens defense, which is going to be anchored by the linebackers. You're going to have some studs in the secondary, and they're just going to get to the quarterback.
Well, yeah, it reminds me of when Chicago, who traded away Roquan Smith, remind me of when they had Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs.
With Mike Brown behind him. Remember? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the linebacker wise, just those two together and what they were able to accomplish in Chicago, that's what it reminds me of. They feed off of one of each other. They communicate really well, and they know where the other one's going to be, so they don't have to worry about, hey, I'm going to cover this zone. No, you're going to cover that zone. Like, they don't have to worry about anything, miscommunication and things like that, because they're both really good players. So it's nice to be able to have that. It's kind of like playing safety in the NFL. If you're a free safety or a strong safety and the other one is right beside you and you're a really good tandem, you don't really got to worry about too much on the other side of the hashes because your brother's got you.
Right.
So,
well, it's so funny you say that. It's so because I'm glad you said that because I'm going to get to a point about the game earlier tonight too. But with Patrick Queen too, I think there was so much hype, and rightfully so. Again, you know me, I'm no SEC homer or anything, and but obviously I respect game and talent, and I think there was just he came into Baltimore. Yes, he learned the it's not that he didn't know the defense. It's just people were saying, "Oh, look at his struggles. Like, is he here? Is he there?" It's like I think he felt, and of course he'll never admit it. And I'm John Harbaugh. I'm sure they didn't make him feel like that. Like, no, I have to do this. I'm not Ray Lewis, but I'm going to do this as a rookie. And I think that kind of, as much as like I said, you saw the talent, why they drafted him. That stunted his growth a little bit. But the second Roquan Smith got there, and it's like like you said, hey, it's like a choreographed dance. Like if we're all doing our 111th and going where we're supposed to go within this coverage, what we call or what we check to, you're going to be good. And like I said, to me, that's been more than huge for Baltimore, to overstate the obvious. But his growth in and of itself is pretty awesome. So
it's kind of like Jalen Hurts, needed AJ Brown to help him with his growth, and Tua needed Tyreek Hill to help him with his growth. And sometimes you just need that other guy to help you with your development. And Patrick Queen was kind of like getting close to bust territory because he was good, then he was bad.
I don't think he was close to bust. I think he was just close to like.
It was like sometimes he was good. You saw the glimpses of play, really good play, but then you also saw the really bad, and it was like, when is this guy ever going to take that step and become a really good player? He was an okay player, and then once Smith got there, it's just kind of like it unlocked, that next step for Patrick Queen.
Sweet. Well, John and I are going to step aside. We will talk about our games. Yes, our teams both went home. Both went home in in terrible fashion in a way, but we're going to talk about it. We're here. I'm wearing my Cowboys stuff because I told Eric no matter what last week when Megan said the whole book it thing,
I told her not to.
Which I know I fully support that. I know you did, but we'll step aside talk about our teams.
Numbers never back up somebody booking it on.
Oh,
they never backs them up.
Eric's booked a few that work, but we'll step aside real quick message and we'll talk Cowboys, Packers, Dolphins, Chiefs. All right, we are back here on the Sports Arena. I am Michael Caratanudo at Diablo00 on X, artist formerly known as Twitter. Oops. And that is John Shear, Mr. Sideline Sports, Mr.
I'm surprised Ray is in here. You know, his Lions won.
I mean, look, dude, we'll get to that. And yes, we will talk that too. I was hoping he would jump in, but we'll talk that too. But all right, let's get to it. The Cowboys got just mollywalked by the Packers. I have never seen a team look so flat. Cowboys or Philly? Well,
it's the Cowboys. It's
the
clearly
Cowboys
the Cowboys.
Right. Well, the Cowboys are worse right now. They're the worst division champs because they didn't get as far as Philly did last year. Figured as a 2 seed, they definitely could have got to the championship game. Look, they came out flat. They came out. How on God's green earth? Yes, the Packers took the ball first because everybody knew they were going to take the ball first if they won the toss, just because of the Cowboys scoring offense, what they've done at home, kind of get off to that fast start. But man, Mike McCarthy, like the play calling, the patterns. I don't know if I don't know if they just overlooked the Packers, which you know me, John. I don't use it as an excuse, but the Packers came out and they ran the ball. That's been the problem. And when you said at the trade deadline, I do have to give you props for this. You said they should have went after the DT from Minnesota.
They should have went after Danielle Hunter.
Danielle Hunter. And I said at the time, I said, yes, I would love that, but it was before the Niners landed.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But I'm saying if the Cowboys would have offered Washington what the Niners did, they could have got Chase Young, which would have taken Chase Young first.
First of all, the Commanders never would have made you don't
know that the Eagles and Cowboys have traded before.
No, but a favor like they did the Niners, they never would have done Dallas that favor.
Well,
never would have happened.
Well, they did it for the Bears too because Sweat went there and he got a contract extension.
Yeah, but that's not in the division. That's what I'm saying. That's their hated rivalry.
They're still in the NFC. You can still see
but it's different. You know, in the NFC, it's different. NFC East, it's different.
Well, right. But okay, let me ask you this though. Okay, so you said they should have got Danielle Hunter, and it would have made a difference because.
And what did you just talk about, Mike? You talked about guys elevating guys, Roquan Smith, elevated Patrick Queen. That would have helped elevate Micah Parsons. He's a great player, elite player.
Well, but here's the thing, right? But they needed somebody there. But I didn't disagree with you on the whole point of they should have got somebody big in the middle because. Mozzie Smith got banged up. He did play. He contributed, but he just wasn't that guy. They needed somebody big in the middle all year long, and it got just had a bright flashing light because Eric and I talked earlier today, and Eric's the one that said it because his disliking of my team, knowing what they have. But when Leighton Vander Esch went out for the season, that changed how Dan Quinn, and again, he still had a hell of a season, 14 sacks. DeMarcus Lawrence, I mean, he played a little bit more inside, which he's usually outside, but inside, DeMarcus Lawrence, look, I'm not even being a homer, John, being fair. I'm not saying he was the best interior guy, but his game improved a lot.
He was
inside.
one of the best run-stopping defensive linemen.
And he's still a little bit undersized to play inside, but in certain packages. But with Leighton Vander Esch out, again, I'm not saying, and people always, and I know you guys hear me, people don't.
He's the captain of the defense.
But he makes those, he gets sideline to sideline. I'm not saying he's blowing guys up, but now you can move those guys around. Now you can move Micah Parsons. I mean, stand Micah, like you said, like we talked about last year, John, remember? When they started going on that run last year too, stand Micah Parsons, when Vander Esch was healthy, stand Micah Parsons up behind DeMarcus Lawrence. Good luck. Right? I mean, because Dexter Fowler inside was having a huge year. Hankins was having a big year. Odigizua, who grew a lot from last year to this year, even like I said, I know I sound like a fan, but when you watch the games, like you see the growth. But when you have Vander Esch in, you can stand Parsons up literally behind DeMarcus Lawrence. Say, okay, then you switch him to the other side where he's behind Fowler, and then maybe you move Vander Esch to the left side. It's like good luck, like just scoot over a little bit. It changes the scheme. Did the defense play flat and get beat up on? You know me, I'm not making excuses. It sucked, but when they didn't address that, and I said in our messages, our group chat last night, like they need a big body in the middle, who's ever, I mean, I don't know, free agents and who's ever up and all that. Good.
Amari Bell said, "I'll send you Cam Hayward." Don't do that. Don't give that to the Cowboys.
Yes, Jamar. No, hold on. Thank you. Well, he put this too. Yes, Jamar. Thank you. I appreciate that because now you can laugh at me, John, and Eric, and Ray's the only Ty's smiling too. But anyway, no, but Vander, okay, they didn't get that guy, but when you saw after that first drive, if you're the Cowboys who played so much man all year long, and even after Trayvon Diggs went out, except for the game against the Cardinals, like we talked about, because their coverage the communication just looked in shambles, which I'm like, you guys are pros. The fact that it was that much in shambles and the Cardinals ran the balls, we know, but Josh Dobbs was still able to pass it. But it's like you played so much man all year, and you've heard me ask you before, when coaches do this, if anybody does, it's like you can work zone in. It's not like they didn't work zone in at all, but they played so much more zone than man, and I think that just took them out of their comfort. I'm not saying they were freaked out, but outside of the Packers being able to run the ball, I mean, what did you see? Because like I said, I'm watching it, yes, from a journalistic standpoint. I'm watching as a fan. Then I go back and I'll watch the game and I kind of fast forwarded through parts of it. But trying to be objective, John. But I mean, it is frustrating because yes, it's another one and done. You're 12-5 for the third year in a row. But
this is the worst
game, okay, so it's the worst loss. But you look at that game, where do you feel on both sides of the ball that the Cowboys failed to make adjustments to what? Again, the Packers had a solid game plan. That's all. I can tip my hate them. I can tip my cap to them though, John. But what did you see even coming out of halftime? Like it just what did you see?
Well, I saw that first of all, what teams did to you this year. They beat you with a run. That's what the Cardinals did to you. They established the run and you couldn't stop it. That's what the Packers did to you. They established the run, and the run set up those big play action.
Don't forget the Bills. The Bills killed them too.
Yeah. So the run set up the play action. And I said it on my show on Sports or Sideline Sports on Tuesday. I said the Cowboys are going to lose because the Packers have too many weapons. I said Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, like Dobbs, Wicks, all these young guys that have come along nicely for the Packers all at once in year 2 of their rebuild, quote unquote.
Jordan Love was the
no, I know, but the weapons.
No, but from week 12 on, I mean, he was the highest rated quarterback in the league.
But I'm saying, like, the weapons that the Cowboys had to cover, I just didn't think the Cowboys had enough horses. Without Trevon Diggs, I didn't think they had enough horses to be able to cover all of those weapons. I thought it was a bad matchup for them. And that's not even counting the run game. The run game, I thought was going to be really hard for them. And I didn't think the Cowboys matched up very well. And then something that doesn't sit well with me, and I don't know what it was. And, I mean, Greg Olsen nailed it 1,000 times yesterday. He kept saying it. Said something is wrong. Just yesterday, I haven't seen it all this year. Just yesterday, something was wrong between Lamb and Dak. I don't know what the hell that was, but those
Yeah.
two were arguing all day. They
Well,
were
it wasn't an argument. I mean,
no, but
nobody was going crazy. They were having conversations, and I
no,
mean,
but Mike, you could tell the body
right.
language for CeeDee Lamb was not there like it was all year. And him and Dak were not at all on the same page yesterday at all. They weren't on the same page. He was dropping balls. He wasn't where he was supposed to be. Like that wasn't CeeDee Lamb. Him and CeeDee Lamb were on the same exact page the entire year. And then for whatever reason, yesterday, those two couldn't have been. I mean, they were on different planets, man. And they were arguing. You saw them on the sideline, like CeeDee Lamb was. I'm not going to accuse him of like throwing a tantrum, but you can kind of tell, like, I have kids, and sometimes, like, I'll tell them something and they're just huffing and puffing and they're not listening to me. I saw when McCarthy, I think it was McCarthy, came over and started trying to talk to Lamb. I think it was like in the third quarter. Lamb was looking at him, but he wasn't listening. And so something was off. I don't know what it was between Lamb and Dak or Lamb and McCarthy,
Well,
something, but it was weird because I haven't seen that at all this
no,
year
oh,
from
right. I mean,
Dallas.
the famous, and obviously they talked about it a million times, like after that. But
What was
like
going
in
on?
this game, well, no, but they talked about the conversation that CeeDee Lamb had with Mike McCarthy after. It wasn't a diva thing. It was like, hey,
No, I'm not accusing him
no,
of
no, no, no,
that.
no. I know that. I'm just saying, like, yeah, him and Dak were having conversation. It wasn't. I mean, we say argument. I mean, they were in the right spots. And look, Green Bay didn't. I mean, look, the interception on Cooks. I mean, that was Jair Alexander made a hell of a play. And the Cowboys didn't lose. I mean, again, they gave up 48 points. But I will say this, and Eric and I we say it once before the playoff, once when the season starts at some point, once at least before the season starts, one time during the season, but in all the games, not just that game. And there was a few that the Cowboys got away with against the Packers. I mean, that Tyler Smith had the false start on the touchdown pass. That was them when CeeDee Lamb was short. Tyler Smith did have a false start. But like Jamari just said, that was complete. Even Packer, I had lifelong Packers fans that I've been friends with for a long time, John, text me and say, yeah, Jair got that call. Like, that's a call that like you're gonna get. And I just look, Dak didn't play great. I'm just saying I get so sick and tired of this official. I mean, the fact that I knew PIs wouldn't get called, John. Do you know why? Because like Jamari said, I put it up before. Micah Parsons actually got 2 holding calls called against him. When you see fistful of jerseys.
Said that was the first holding call he drew since week 6.
Yeah, week 6 or 7. So yeah,
and
no,
there's
you're right.
and Mike, you know, since week 6,
Like, and I get like, look,
Micah Parsons has been held more than just yesterday since week 6.
Right.
So
no,
it's crazy. He hasn't gotten a flag since week 6. That's crazy.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I get it. And when people say you could call holding on every play, look, if it's within the body frame, if a guy's rushing and you're battling with him and he has his hands inside your shoulder, like, it's not going to be called holding. That's right. Because again, but when you see that and guys are just getting like just chunks of jerseys and ripped down, I'm like, dude, you're telling the refs in the playoffs to let them play, but in the regular season, and yes, not every single one of those calls get made, but to me, that's like the laughable part, because I don't know how much. I mean, the teams can always send video, and the league will obviously answer back to maybe something that they wasn't called against them, but they'll show the video like, hey, how is this not? Explain this to us. Like, why on God's green earth is this not a holding call or a PI, or why is this holding when the guy's right there? Like, I mean, that's the frustrating part. They say, okay, let them play. Don't become a part of the game. Well, when you're not consistent from the regular season, that's what drives people crazy. And for, fans, like I always say, can't spell fanatic without fan, but that's the annoying part about the playoffs. Like, the talent, the games, the matchups we get, people usually like love them. Even if a team, like gets hot at the end of the season, gets into the playoffs, like the fan base or stuff, like you just want to see good games. And that's the part that drives me nuts, because that PI, and I'm not saying the Cowboys go down and score, but as well as I do, even if you move the ball 20,
the game.
But if you move it 20, 25 more yards, like maybe you punt, you switch field position, rock on. Like that's just that. But look, Romeo, like Matt LaFleur had a hell of a game plan, and Jordan Love, like I said, I mean, the Packers GM who we ripped on When they were saying, it's a, halfway, well, we don't know. We got to see what Jordan can do. And now Jordan Love is looking like, oh, they're like, oh, and I told Eric, like, I do the side of me is like, if they hit on a third quarterback in a row, I hate the Packers because nobody, like, the 49ers were close with obviously Montana and then Steve Young, right? Jeff Garcia wasn't bad, but obviously I know he didn't bring
good quarterback.
Jeff Garcia was a very good quarterback, but just again, same thing. Like, okay, you got to the playoffs, you did well, you got to like divisional. I think they got to the
NFC championship, yeah.
Right, they got to the NFC Championship game with them, but it's like it never was over the hump with Jeff Garcia. So, but if they go literally 3 in a row, it's like, screw you, Packers. I hate you. I mean that in the nicest way possible in a sports thing, but like, I hate you if they hit on 3 in a row. But to wrap it up, though, I mean, from what you saw from the Packers, and I mean it's early, but the Niners aren't going to make the same damn mistake, and they're going to come downhill at the Packers. So it's like I think it'll be a good matchup. But I mean, what do you see the Packers taking from that game that they can obviously try and interject in this game and to, help Jordan Love even more, because he's going to be seeing a lot of different coverages.
The fact that no matter whether the Cowboys brought pressure, which they did a lot, and when they did, Jordan Love stood tall. He would slide in the pocket like you would see like Brady and Rodgers do that stuff.
John,
slide in the pocket,
he stood tall, but he threw off his back foot a lot, but he threw darts off his back foot, which is hard to do.
And something, I've been saying this, man. I haven't watched a ton of Jordan Love this year, but I've seen enough. His play style, his mannerisms, the way he does play action, everything, he copied and pasted that from Aaron Rodgers. He sat behind Aaron Rodgers for all those years, and if you watch the way he even does his when he does play action, it's spit an image of Aaron Rodgers. With his throw style, the way he rolls out, the way
his arm angles a little. He doesn't have. I mean, I'm not saying he can't make them, but his arm angles aren't like Rodgers.
The way he's
but he did this in college. And again, I get it. He went to Utah State. I get it, but it doesn't matter if a quarterback can play. A quarterback can play.
No, but I'm saying it's impressive that that he was able to, like Aaron Rodgers, to sit for a couple years, take everything in from Aaron Rodgers, and then use that, because it's not easy to sit for that long and then come out and, you know what I mean? Like, it's not easy to sit for
Aaron Rodgers. I mean, everybody forgets Aaron Rodgers when he came out. Like, people saw the talent after
for what, 3 years?
He sat for 4.
4 years.
He sat for 4 years, and he 3 or 4 years, whatever it was. But I mean, he threw quite a few picks. It wasn't like Gunslinger. He was staying within the offense. He threw quite a few picks.
His first career pass was a pick in Dallas. The play broke his leg.
Who?
Aaron Rodgers. The very first pass he made was an interception in Dallas. His first career pass.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was his first. Yeah. And that's the last time he did crappy in that stadium. So I want to kick him in the shins too, as you know. But no, I will say this for Jordan Love. Like, obviously, it is great experience, and they talk about young teams. Like, you don't know what you don't know. The coaches, I mean, yes, you understand. They all understand if they lose, they go home, John. But the thing is, like, coaches are going to put them in positions. They're going to make plays if they make mistakes. Like, cool, short-term memory. Like, I mean, the Texans, there was a few mistakes, but I mean, after they got the pick 6 and then another the interception and then another pick, and then the second interception, the pick 6, like, it steamrolled. I mean, look, I will say I'm at least happy the Cowboys came try to fight back a little bit, because in years past, they would have just been like, I mean, even under, when would get mad at Jason Garrett, they would just kind of like, oh, well, we didn't have a lead, and oh, we're folding, and that's that. We'll try and keep it close. But I mean, there was a little bit of that there, but I literally think that when you don't address certain things, I mean, look, you're like with Van Der Esch out, you never really readdress the linebacker position. I mean,
they tried to get Shaq Leonard, and he chose Philly over Dallas.
Right, and that would have been right. But I mean, then if you don't, you need to have another contingency plan. But look, hats off. I tip my cap to the Cowboys, on a division title, but to the Packers, I should say. I tip my cap to them, because LaFleur came up with a really good game plan. And the question I asked about that, I mean, look, not liking either one of those teams, but I don't think you go on the road, twice in this playoffs, especially with the Niners, with everybody back and they have everybody playing. Like, I'm not saying they can't keep it close. I don't think that. I don't think that last week was a fluke because look, they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit, but they also don't have, Christian McCaffrey on their offense. And I mean, that's just Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. We always talk about it, but that's that. All right. So now I will give you the floor. Your Dolphins, they did have, I always say to you, they did have a ton of injuries, but
No, you can't use that. You
no,
can't
no,
use
I'm
that.
not using. No, you can't use it. But I'm saying you.
No, I'm saying
hold
because
on. Let me finish. Let me finish the statement. I'm saying you guys did have a ton of injuries, and yes, I've said to you, guys got to step up. But Tua played, Tyreek played, Waddle played, Mostert played. Akane went out. He played, but then he went out in like the third quarter, right? Is that or second quarter? When did he get banged up?
It didn't really matter. Nobody really was an impact on that offense. So
right, but I'm saying but that's what I'm saying. Like, and Eric and I have said every year we can't stand Steve Spagnuolo because yes, he's had talented players, but it's the second half of the season in which you need. That's why I think that like he's always in the hunt for like coordinator of the year, John. Side note, because like yes, you have to take the whole season as we know, you take the whole season as the body of work. But if you go second half of seasons ever since like his tenure in New York, like. If you go second half of seasons with these with these coordinators, defense on this side, I don't think you would have a better production and better results and growth than Steve Spagnuolo gets the second half of his. No matter who he has returning or if he has rookies in, that's what pisses most people off, John. Because if you're not a fan of the team that he's the coordinator for, if he is, you're freaking like this guy's a genius. I love him. Don't leave ever. But I mean, with what you saw, and again, they played the Chiefs earlier in Germany. So like both teams, this season, because when people say, oh, well, they played last season or they did this or they did that, that's one thing. But but they played each other this season, which is huge for both teams. But it just seemed like Tyreek had that one big touchdown. But then after that
was the only thing they did.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I know you can't throw it to him every play. I mean, it's not like the old
Why
school.
not?
Okay, because if you do, there's going to be three dudes right there. They know you're throwing to him every play. It's the NFL. It's not Tech Mobile. It's not Tech Mobile.
It's Tyreek Hill. Like who?
Okay, but it does. Yeah, you want to get the ball. You want to run end rounds. Okay, but what is the okay? But what? Okay, so what did the Chiefs do? How are they able to capitalize more in this game and have the 25-7 victory, 26-7 victory?
Because first of all, and this is my opinion, it looked like Tua didn't want to be there. It looked like those guys didn't want to be there. They didn't want to be in the cold. Like it looked like they just, you know what I mean? Like you see
NFL players. I'm not saying it was idle conditions.
No.
I'm not saying it's idle conditions, but come on, man.
Now, Mike, if you watch the Dolphins defense try and tackle Mahomes on that key play on third down where he ran and he bulldozed through two Dolphins tacklers. And instead of stopping him for, short of the line, he bulldozed through and got down to like the 2. What did those two guys do? What did Eli Apple and Duke Riley do? They played two-hand touch with him. He ran by and they touched him. They tried to touch him on the shoulder pads and he just zoomed on by. Like, that's what I'm saying is just because you're there in the game doesn't mean you necessarily want to be there. Doesn't mean you're mentally checked in to that game. And I'm not one to make excuses. I watched the Dolphins' body language, their effort, and some of the players, not all of them, some of the players just did not look comfortable. Like Jamari said, Tua didn't look comfortable. It's not only that, but I said this, after the game, I'm not one to be reactionary. Like, I need to see fire out of Tua. I need to see heart and fire and toughness and get mean. Like we've watched dodgeball before. Remember when he says you need to get mean, you need to get angry.
Right.
That's what I need to see out of Tua. So I need to see out of some of these guys who were questioned throughout the week about being a finesse team. And I said, no, they're a physical team and this is perfect for them. And to his credit, I think Mostert, in my opinion, him and Waddle, I think they gutted it out with bad injuries. I think the only reason they play on those really bad injuries is because of the playoffs. If this was the Week 18 game.
I thought Waddle looked okay personally, and I get what you're saying. It's your team, and yes, outside of the Cowboys-Dolphins game, I did watch quite a few of your
I
games.
didn't think they
I thought
either of them
Waddle
were
looked good.
healthy.
I mean, I know. I think they were aiming to take him away because they knew. Look, at some point, and we even said it. Everybody said it, and it in Kansas City. At some point, Tyreek's going to get his. Like if he gets his and it's 1-on-1, you can live with that. But if you take the second receiver out of the game, and I think that's what Spagnuolo started to do. I don't think I'm with you. I don't think Waddle was fully 100%. But I mean, even in that weather, especially like the first few drives.
I'm not saying he didn't try.
No. I'm saying, but I think he looked good. He looked good getting off the ball. Yes, it was cold. I think some of the like patterns and stuff in the cutting. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I think they try to keep him out of that.
Mostert didn't look like he was like 50%. Like
Mostert looked like he. I mean, he was like he was
out there to be out there.
Through, but yeah, he didn't. He didn't. I'm with you on that. Like they're trying to get the win. That part, yes, I will always, as much as I give you crap, I will, and anybody crap, I will always say that. But I thought Waddle, I mean, all game moved good. I just think that they figured, okay, Spagnuolo's like, okay, if it's that cold and he can't move, look, I know.
I don't think it was Spags. I don't think it was Spags, Mike. I think it was really bad game plan by the Dolphins.
But look at the coverages, John, because they talked about that too in the NFL Network.
I understand, and I'm not
a lot
taking
of the coverages
credit.
are rolled towards Waddle. And like, if he can't move, that's helping the defense out because they're like, okay, he can move, but we have this cushion. And if the ball gets thrown, he was bracketed more than Tyreek. I'm just saying.
I'm not taking anything away from Spagnuolo. I'm not. I just think that the Dolphins had a really poor game plan. They poorly executed. Again, it looked like they were trying to get their footing for a while. For whatever reason, they only tried one pass downfield to Tyreek. It ended up being a touchdown. They never went back to that. And it looked like the offense didn't. Not everybody, but it looked like certain guys on the offense just didn't want to be out in that weather. Like man, we'd rather be at home. Playing the playoff game in our house in our weather. We don't want anything to do with this. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like Tua just did not have he didn't want to be out there in that cold weather. And and Jamari Bell says y'all defense being hurt does matter. No, it didn't matter actually, because that defense, as much as they bent, Mike, they never broke. They got worn down eventually, but they gave the Dolphins.
Okay, you just said what I was going to say to you. Hold on. You just said what I was going to say. They got worn down because as much as look, everybody knows, as much as we've given you crap, and yes, sometimes you go way overboard, but
you got to give the Dolphins.
I agree with you, but I agree with you. Losing Chubb on that outside was huge. Yes, using your linebackers is because to back it up. But if Chubb is out there, and again, I'm not saying it's a 19-point difference. I'm just saying that with Chubb out there, that changes a lot because Kansas City's O-line, yes, played good this season. They were, I mean, it wasn't the O-line issues. We talked about the drops. We talked about, if they can't outscore teams, and if teams are punching them in the mouth, like it's an issue. I mean, we saw it. Look, even though the drops hadn't happened yet, it was week 1, but we saw it. It was teams with their losses, John. Week 1 against Detroit. Dan Campbell, I mean, you have 3 months to prepare for that game, basically. And Dan Campbell and the Lions came out defensively and punched them in the mouth. Yes, there was a drop in that game, too. I do take it. It was a drop. We didn't think it would become a season-long thing. But teams punched him in the mouth, and that's the thing. So with Chubb not out there, to me, when he went down, I was like, oh, man, that is even I said to you last week, I'm like, that is tough for you because, yes, when your linebackers are out, but if you can get – you and I well know you get pressure from that outside guy or somebody maybe that's, inside that can take the pressure off, that can take, a second lineman with them. And a guy like Chubb is just killing quarterbacks. I mean, like we said earlier, like DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons have done. Like, I mean, even Chris Jones, I mean, he's in the middle. You figure like they don't put Chris Jones on the outside that much, like just stack up the middle and your guys, chip somebody on the end, either side. But with Chubb being out, and I'm with Jamari on that. Like those injuries, yes, they do play a part, but Chubb to me was the biggest one. When you have all that out, it's like, yeah, Waddle, Mostert definitely tried to go. Kane tried to go, and then I know he went. I think it was the third quarter when he went back out towards the middle of the third. Yeah. But look, like I said, look, the offense was there, the defense. With those guys out, at some point, it made a difference. Yes, when Jalen Ramsey got back into the lineup the second half of the season-ish, you could see a difference in that secondary. Then when Howard got banged up, because Howard got banged up, right? He missed a few games.
He didn't. Yeah, he didn't play the last 2 games.
2 games,
He didn't.
right?
Yeah, he
Right.
didn't play this game, and he didn't play week 18. I will say this, Mike, and this is what I'm trying to say about the injuries not mattering in this game. I mean, yeah, like it would have obviously helped, and maybe they make a couple more stops, but the defense gave the offense a chance. Like they kept holding the Chiefs to field goals. They kept getting some stops. They got some fourth down stops. They got some punts. They held them to field goal after field goal after field goal. Yeah, they gave up the opening drive touchdown, but after that, Mike, it was field goal. It was field goal. It was punt. It was fourth down stop. Like they kept letting the offense, like giving the offense a chance to get back in the game. And when you have a defense that's missing Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Jerome Baker, Holland, Xavier Howard, Andrew Van Ginkel, who was top 5 graded edge rusher this year in the NFL. When you're missing all of those guys,
right,
and your defense still is hanging tough on the road, crappy weather in Kansas City against the reigning champs, wild card weekend, weather like that, and they hold them to field goals and stopping them on fourth downs, holding them to like punt, making them punt,
right.
Stuff
Well,
like that. Like that's got to inspire the offense at some point.
No, I know,
and
to me,
doing
but
that.
right, and when they're not able to, I call it like this, John. I call it death
It
by
only hold up so long.
I know, but I just call it death by 1,000 paper cuts because it wasn't a full blowout. But like you said, they add a you get a touchdown, then they add a field goal, and then it's like okay, then they add another field goal, then it's like a touchdown, then it's like a field goal. It's like we've kept them in the game, but at that point, like you said, at some point, but that's why I call it death by 1,000 paper cuts. All right, John and I are going to take a quick break. We are going to pay tribute to Ray's team right after this because the Lions have 2 home games now, thanks to the crap ass Packers and my team crap in the bed. We'll be back talking Lions after this. Oh, yes. The National Scouting Combine coming up February 18th through 22nd in Indianapolis. Like Eric says, we'll have a ton more on that. Can't wait to get out there. Again, it's a great opportunity for everybody to get out there. He's John Scheer. I'm Michael Carrot-Tenuto. We are here on the Sports Arena. I was hoping Ray, he's probably bowling a 300 in honor of his, I would say he could bowl a 310, but he can't bowl a 310, John, because 31 years since the last victory. That was my lame pun. But no, I mean, look, 24-23, that second half, John, I'm going to let you get into this first, but that second half made me feel like they were playing outdoors in snow. The physicality, people that say the Rams, look, we all love Aaron Donald, and everybody says, oh, it's Aaron Donald. Yeah, they can cover, but the Rams in general, I mean, have they had a physical look, the Rams have a physical defense. No matter who's next to Aaron Donald, he brings up, like we talked about, he brings up their level of play. He balls out. But that second half was old school, punch you in the mouth, receivers make a few plays, try and run the ball. I mean, Stafford threw for 357 on a messed up rib. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not reporting the injury. He just kept grabbing his midsection. That's all I know. So whether he got, shot to the ribs, that area, and it was bruised, like we know he's tough. Like Matt Stafford is the freaking man. But Jared Goff, I mean, the first half, they're rolling. They get the lead, and they're moving the ball, and Amon-Ra St. Brown and all this. But, John, that second half, I mean, it was punch you in the mouth. It wasn't – and that's the thing people say, oh, 24-23, what an ugly game. That was such a freaking beautiful game, like the chess match that went back and forth.
Yeah, I don't know how you – I mean, if you didn't like that game, if you watched playoff football this weekend and you didn't like that game, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, I don't think you like playoff football because it's the only good game this weekend. This Bucks game has been awful. Every game this weekend has sucked except the Lions game. Like, none of the games have been competitive. None of them have been competitive, Mike.
No, I mean, look, Buffalo. Look, I mean, we're not gonna. I mean, Buffalo's won tonight too, but I want to get the Lions. Buffalo.
We
I
knew
mean,
what was
they
going to
were in
happen.
control, but the Steelers still battled back. Look, if there was any team, even without T.J. Watt, they somehow managed to keep it close for a while. After they blocked that punt, they crushed the Bills in yards. I mean, but I want to focus on the Lions. Anyway, that being said, like, yeah, I mean, 24-23. Like I said, Stafford, this is insane. He throws for 357, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Goff throws for 277. Sorry.
He had a great game.
And he throws a touchdown. I mean, again, he hasn't had he's had a few games where it's like, okay, like he's not pushing, they're not moving the ball, but they still win the game, or he's not throwing it great. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, you talked about it a lot. Amon-Ra St. Brown's a man, 7 catches, 110 yards yesterday, didn't score. But both Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, who I will pick on Ray, we can't pick on Ray for this, John, that he was like, running backs don't matter. What the hell they take? Has Jahmyr Gibbs not been a playmaker where he's been healthy all season, John? I'm just curious.
They did a really good job of making this amazing 1-2 punch between Montgomery and him. Great.
Well, what did I say? You said it all year. I mean, not that we disagree with you.
This is what I said about Dallas.
Detroit has the best line. Detroit has the best line in football. And David Montgomery was so happy to get out of Chicago, where they never did anything to help forget Justin Fields and the quarterback, but you don't do anything to help the running back with an offensive line that's at least, I mean, the right side of their line is really good. The left side's terrible. Everybody's crashing from the left side like, we're going to kill you. Like, we don't care. Like, he goes to Detroit. He's like, oh, my God. Yeah, he did get banged up. People said, oh, well, Montgomery gets banged up. That's because he got killed in Chicago. He did miss a few games this year, but when he's been on the field, I mean, that 1-2 punch has been sick. And I just want to tease Ray, like, oh, Jahmyr Gibbs don't matter now, huh?
It's exactly what I told you last year in Dallas. I said, you got to keep Zeke. Not because Tony Pollard can't run the football.
Tony Pollard needs the ball more.
Yes, but I said the 1-2 punch like they do in Detroit was really good for both running backs. Yeah, fantasy-wise, you're not going to like it. But in the NFL, you got to have a 1-2 punch these days. The Dolphins have a 1-2 punch. Basically, that's the NFL with running backs.
That's why I said they should have went and got last offseason, and you said,
if you kept Zeke, who I think looked good with the New England Patriots in limited action,
right?
I thought you keep Tony Pollard fresh. You have your bruising back, and you have what you have in Detroit, in Dallas, and I thought it was stupid for them to get rid of him. So I like.
But talk to me about, you know what, Detroit's defense has been in question because it's not the front end. The front, obviously the line, the front seven, like, is kind of there. Their secondary, the guys that, I mean, knock on wood for them, they've been relatively healthy. They've had a few guys banged up, but
they got C.J. Gardner-Johnson back.
Yeah, their secondary was in kind of suspect-ish. But, I mean, talk about what you saw from them, especially, I mean, in that second half defensively.
Yeah, I mean, they were so physical, and, you know, finally the world got to see Aiden Hutchinson. He's a fantastic player, gets held all the time. If people don't know about,
he got one call too when he got tackled at Stafford's feet.
Yeah, he finally got, he got tackled and they finally called one. But if the world doesn't know about Brian Branch, which I have all season, if you don't know about Brian Branch, you do now, because Brian Branch is a hell of a player, hell of a steal in the draft for the Lions. I love that pick. Obviously, Laporta, like everybody knows, I loved that pick when the Lions got him. I wanted the Dolphins to get him because I loved Laporta in the draft. So, Brad Holmes done a great job for the Lions. But, yeah, their defense was just so physical with the Rams. And, yeah, they got called for some penalties. And then, yeah, they pushed the envelope and got away with some. But kind of reminds you of this kind of reminds me of the Saints when they won the Super Bowl. Yeah, the defense isn't great, but they're opportunistic. And they get key stops. They get key turnovers, key sacks. This is what the Saints rode to a championship with Drew Brees.
Yeah, but the Saints was better. I'll say this. I don't know if the Saints were as good up front, But the
No, but I'm
Saints,
just saying.
no, but I'm saying no. But the Saints defensively, they were a lot stronger in the secondary.
I'm just
I'm not
saying
ripping
this.
Detroit. I'm just saying
I'm
facts.
just saying they bend, but they don't break, and they're opportunistic, and that's all the Lions. I said this yesterday at the beginning of that game when the Lions held the Rams to a field goal that first drive. I said the Lions are going to give up a lot of yards and a lot of points tonight, but if they can hold the Rams to some field goals, some key stops, and they do exactly what they did last night, just get some stops here and there, the offense is good enough, like the Saints when they won the Super Bowl. Offense is good enough to, it's like, hey, defense, you don't got to be world beaters, but just make some key stops, get some key sacks and turnovers, and we'll do the rest. And that's what the Lions did to be able to beat the Rams. By the way, touchdown Bucks 32-9. So Mike, I'm sure you'll be happy that the Eagles are getting murdered in front of Eric's very eyes.
Look, Eric wanted to support his team. If I was there, I'd be supporting him too. The Eagles lost 5 out of 6. It's not a far stretch that the Bucks. I mean, only scoring 9 points. That as much pressure as the Bucks love to bring. No, AJ Brown. I mean, that is huge. Devontae Smith showed. Yes, he is. He's not a number 2 there. It's 1 and 1A. Like I said when AJ Brown came over, because Devontae Smith, people say, oh, he's so tiny, this and that. Do you see people catching him when he's in the open field? Like it does. I mean, he runs by people like they're standing there and they know he's running. They're running by him. And then he makes sick catches. Like it's 1 and 1A. That definitely obviously helped Tampa getting revenge, but Tampa ran the ball tonight too. Forks up, baby. He's a Sun Devil.
By the way, Mike, Jalen Hurts' first career playoff game 2 years ago
in Tampa
Bay. He lost that game. He is
Yeah,
now
but come
going to
on,
be
man. He didn't have a lot, and he took over the starting position.
The record is what it is.
I want to trash Philly as much as anybody, John. I'm not going down that rabbit hole because most rookie quarterbacks in their first playoff start aren't C.J. Stroud. All right, they're not C.J. Stroud. By the way, Aiden Hutchinson, like you said, our boy, he did have 2 sacks yesterday and did get a holding call when he got tackled. I was jumping up and down. You know me, John, spitting out nickels because a defensive player actually finally got a freaking call, whether it be in the regular season or playoffs. John and I are going to get out of here. We're over. So congrats to your team. Congrats to the Bills. Beat the Steelers. That happened tonight because of the weather. And hats off, like I said, to those fans. $20 an hour to come play in the snow and get paid to move it. Like John said, if you're a diehard fan, John, I think if I was in Buffalo, even if I wasn't a fan, I just would have went out there to do it for the hell of it because like they're like, hey, $20 an hour, come out. I would have been like, you know what? Forget the $20 an hour. How about season tickets for me on the second level next year?
Yeah.
Do it for season tickets. No, but I mean, I'm just saying that's awesome. So he is John Shearer. Check him out. Sideline Sports Network, the flagship show when he talks his junk. And I know Jake will be happy. The Cowboys lost, so they're right. They're 1 and done. John, can you just do me a favor because I have to work tomorrow? Can you remind Jake that as Giants fans, the last decade, maybe I don't even know whatever it is because they don't make the playoffs. He's talking about the Cowboys in the playoffs where they don't go. Oh, wait, that's right. They beat Minnesota last year. Anyway, but John and I are going to get out of here. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you next Monday here on the Sports Arena, 10 o'clock Eastern. Eric will be back. He won't be too thrilled. Megan will be here. And, John and I are on to hockey and hoops and,
baseball.
And baseball. And Ray still has football season, so I'm sure we will talk more about that. But for John, I am Michael. We will see you later. Adios, all.